Have you ever been swept away by a story? I know I have. Noah?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm Mrs. Sprinkle, and this is my son Noah, and we are here today to read you a tale. There are so many great stories that you can learn from and you can treasure. What's one of your favorite stories? Noah, what's one of yours?
White Fang.
White Fang. What are you reading now, you guys? Tell me in the comments below. I would love to see what you're reading. Maybe it's something I haven't read before and I can grab. So sometimes stories come to us by way of myths and legends from long ago. One of the most famous legends of all time is the story of King Arthur. So all of these stories about King Arthur take place in medieval England during the times of knights and castles and fair maidens and noble lords and peasants. That sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? What a time of wonder and adventure to wrap our minds around, our imaginations. So I'm sure you've heard the story of King Arthur before. But have you ever noticed that the best stories are the kinds that you can hear again and again, and it doesn't get old? You love to listen to them. So today, Noah and I are going to share the tale of how Arthur removed the famous sword from the stone and took his rightful place as the King of England. Noah, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is adapted from Core Knowledge. In the days of old, Britain was ruled by King Uther Pendragon. The dragon was his emblem, and he was a mighty warrior and a great ruler. He was not only the greatest man in battle, but he was wise too, for he followed the counsel of Merlin, a great magician and seer. Merlin could cast magic spells and change shapes to look like an animal or even another person. He was called a seer because he could see the future for everyone, that is, except himself. Uther Pendragon had a son named Arthur. One day, when Arthur was still young, Merlin had a terrifying vision. He foresaw that Uther Pendragon would soon die from a plague that was sweeping the land. And he saw that because Arthur was only a baby, many of the other noblemen would try to take his place as king. Some might even try to harm him, and war could break out. So Merlin secretly gave Arthur into the care of a noble knight, Sir Ector, who did not know he was protecting the king's son and heir. Sir Ector raised Arthur along with his own son Kay. Just as Merlin had predicted, Uther Pendragon died, and the British lords began a feud with each other over who should be king. For years, Britain was torn with warfare and strife. When Merlin felt that the time had come, he went to the Archbishop of Canterbury and said that if the Archbishop would call the lords of the land to London at Christmas, a miracle would reveal who was the rightful king of Britain. The Archbishop did just as Merlin asked. On Christmas Day, all the lords attended church. When they came out, they found in the churchyard a square marble stone. In the middle of it was an anvil, and into the anvil was thrust a sword. The stone gripped the naked sword by the point, and on the blade was written in gold letters,
"Whoever so pulls out this sword from this stone, an anvil is the true-born king of Britain."
Each lord tried to pull the sword out, but all of them failed. News of the sword and the stone spread, with an invitation to all the knights of the land to come and try to pull out the sword. A jousting tournament was announced for New Year's Day. The knights would first compete in the jousting field, then they would attempt to remove the sword. All the great lords attended church service on New Year's Day. Among them were Sir Ector and his son Sir Kay, who had only recently been made a knight. Arthur, only 15 years old and completely unaware of his kingly birth, acted as Kay's assistant, or his squire. After the church service, all rode in merry company to the jousting field. When Sir Kay realized he had left his sword behind, He asked Arthur to ride back and get it for him. Arthur rode as fast as he could to their lodging, but found the door locked. Uh-oh, what's he going to do? Arthur had seen the sword in the stone, but he did not know the legend surrounding it. He said to himself, I will ride to the churchyard and take that sword in the stone, for my brother shall not be without a sword this day. Arthur was alone at the churchyard, for everyone else was at the jousting tournament. He grasped the sword by the hilt and gave it a light, quick pull. Out it came. Out it came. Arthur jumped onto his horse, rode to the jousting field, and gave Kay the sword. Now, being a knight, Arthur had been told the meaning of the sword and the stone.
Kay.
Oh, yes, sorry. Kay had been told the meaning of the sword and the stone. He recognized at once what it might mean to see Arthur grasping the sword before him. So, unwisely, he tried to deceive his father, saying, Sir, look, here is the sword of the stone, so I must be king of this land. Sir Ector was amazed. He took Kay and Arthur back to the churchyard and asked Kay to swear how he came by the sword. Frightened, Kay now admitted, Sir, my brother Arthur brought it to me. Then Kay and his father looked at young Arthur. How did you get the sword? Sir Ector asked Arthur. Arthur told him exactly what he had done. Now, said Sir Ector to Arthur, you must be king of this land. I, said Arthur, astonished. How can that be? No man could have pulled out this sword unless he was the rightful king of this land, said Sir Ector. Now let me see whether you can put the sword back in as it was and pull it out again. That's quite easy, said Arthur. So there, in the frosty churchyard, stood the white stone with the anvil, but no sword in the anvil. Arthur thrust the sword back into the anvil, which held the blade snugly, to see that there was no trick. Sir Ector tried to pull it out. He could not move it at all. Now you try, he said to Sir Kay, who pulled with all of his might, but he could not move it. Now you. Very well, said Arthur, and he pulled it out quite easily. Sir Ector and Sir Kay knelt down before Arthur. My own dear father and brother, cried the boy nervously. Why do you kneel down before me? Then Sir Ector told Arthur that he was not really his son, and that Merlin had brought him as a baby to be raised in his household. Sir, said Sir Ector, I will ask no more of you, but that you make my son, your foster brother Sir Kay, steward in charge of your lands. That shall be done, answered Arthur, and no other man shall have the office while he and I live. The three men went to the archbishop to tell what had happened. Arthur took the sword in both hands and laid it on the altar where the archbishop was standing. Then he knelt down, and the grandest knight present stepped forward to make Arthur a knight. The archbishop set the crown of Britain on Arthur's head, and Arthur swore to treat all, high and low, with justice all the days of his life. The people threw up their caps and shouted, Hurrah! At last the true king had come to punish the wicked and defend the poor. I want to challenge your imagination now. Using only things you can find in your house or in your backyard, and with your parent or guardian's permission, of course, I want you to fashion your own sword in the stone and send me a picture. What will you use for a stone?
What I used is a scrub brush holder and a paper towel holder.
And the paper towel holders for your sword?
Mm-hmm.
What did you name it?
Paper towel.
Paper towel? You guys, thank you so much for sharing this time with me today. We miss you and can't wait to share more stories and fun times together. We'll see you soon.